Hello, Metamorph. First of all, your comment. No, you didn't. Comment one. Well, look. Hello. No, I don't think I'm hostile. I'm sorry I used the word fuck, but other than that, I don't think you should have seen any of those as hostile, but I'll be more sensitive about how I phrase things. It seemed to me you did get the meaning in my ideas, and you were responding with your actual disagreements to more or less my comments, except for the first one. I was not throwing your parenthood in your face. I wasn't thinking about that at all. To be honest, the video wasn't over. That was a reaction to the basic idea. Um, and even if the video had been over in the part you were talking about your kids, that isn't what I would have meant. I'm talking about once you, plural, anybody has kids, it sure doesn't seem selfish. Right? Now, that's part of my point, is that no matter what the intentions are, it turns out it's a burden. You can interpret it into not a burden through the power of positive thinking and stuff, but basically, the only payment you'd ever get back is that they're doing good. They're going to take care of you in your old age? Parents that are trying to get their kids set up are usually trying not to be a burden on the kids, too. No, I think it's nice that those kids should take care of those old people if they need help. But ideally, they pay it forward. And I think that's the beautiful deal, because if they don't want to have kids, then they don't have to pay that debt ever. And that's totally fair. And they've done the world some help because they've helped control population. Okay, so I don't think I cherry-picked. I responded to the things that I found I wanted to respond to. I was going to say that I found interesting, but there were things interesting, I suppose, that I didn't respond to. Now, basically what I do is I will pause a video and make a comment, or if it's just a one-liner, I might just make a comment while I'm watching the video. Because I like to do that. And sometimes, somebody at the end goes, I don't believe everything I just said, haha, joke's on you. I mean, I might go, oh geez, well, you got me. Okay. For the longer comments, it's either after the video's over, I take notes sometimes like this, or I pause the video. I also watch videos several times, and sometimes I do find there's parts I didn't notice, so my thoughts wander. But then again, I watch them multiple times. And I do pay attention and try to get the ideas that are in the part that have attracted my attention first. So I don't want to cherry pick. Not trying to be hostile. Was definitely not accusing you. You and I agree. You could go in with selfish on this one point. That you can go. Actually, we agreed on some really fundamental things to me. Even though I've been reading your comments forever, but now I see you're a more devout nihilist than Carrie, probably. Whatever that means. That's not hostile, not an insult. I'm just saying I see in your video something I didn't get through comments, because I haven't been reading a lot of blogs, so I didn't see your blogs. Probably I would have got it from that. Right. And I said that parents don't really know what the reasons are. You said they did it for their own reasons, so it's selfish, and that's obvious, but I'm saying it doesn't really matter what their notion is. Afterwards, they find out the kids are a lot of work. As a matter, if they're selfish, if they go into it selfish, they're bound to think the kids as a burden. So, I don't know, people have reactions to that they thought they were doing it for themselves and it isn't. And some people think they're doing it for themselves, like to add to their glory, and it succeeds. But at any rate, there's a lot of work, and you have to help the kids. So, I mean, if eating is okay, well, this comes up later. If hunger is an okay thing for your survival, then, I mean, why wouldn't the desire to procreate for the survival of the species. Yeah, I think that the human species has been around hundreds of thousands of years, and then was various other classifiable animals for millions and millions of years prior to that. I think if you end that, you can't just expect me to go, no, you didn't end anything. Continuing that's not necessary. Continuing an individual is not necessary, right? Right to suicide. It's not necessary to continue the individual. You just can't tell another person that they can't continue. And that goes for the thousands of years of life, as far as I'm concerned. You disagree, I understand that. You said I went on a selfishness rant. And yeah, I'm just saying that you have a self, and everything about you is related to that self by definition. It's unavoidable. So the self does not equal bad. You said later at the end you actually agree about expanding this sense of self to being all of humanity, or for that matter even further, I would say. In which case, selfishness doesn't have to be a bad thing. Wanting to have clean water in Africa is selfish of me because I'm trying to help my species, the humanity, and because I think we'll sell them iPods after that. Okay. If there is anything good, if antinatalism is a good idea, it involves self. Okay. So with hunger, we were talking about the necessary selfishness to survive. I jumped ahead and I pointed out, yeah, well, the species can be said to survive or not, too. There is no fundamental reason things are linked to the individual. It is an imposition to tell an individual to die right now. But it's not an imposition to tell the species to die after the individual dies naturally. But, like the individual, you're talking to a family. Grandpa and sons and daughters and their wives, and they're all there, and you're like, that's what you're saying has to die. The family could continue, and you're saying it won't. And you're saying then that doesn't count as anything. Nope. Well, by what? By what does it link to this individuation? And that's what you really didn't get about my point of with the egg is already alive in the ovary. It's sitting there waiting. The eggs die, they're not going to create a person. And when I asked you about that, you went off into antinatalism things, and you started saying, talked about the pinprick, risk of that even, which to me seems hypersensitive, because of course, even a pinprick, why? It totally will heal. Why not? What's the problem with severing your nerve so you won't feel it? And then what is possibly a big deal about it? A couple of your cells do die in that. But you talked about bringing to existence. No, the egg is already there. We're talking about the egg either has a short life, 45 years, or it has a long life of an extra, 85 as a human. Why is the egg better off dying? That was the question. Now, you talked about you can't consent. Well, I can't get consent of my future self either. Can I not make decisions for myself? Because I can't ask when I'm 18, I can't ask myself when I'm 43 if I wanted to be at the other end of that decision. And since I have the experiences that resulted from it, there's a good chance I would say no, right? But that doesn't make the 18 self has to wait and consult with me. And we're different. We have different cells, and we're not exactly the same, and we have some shared memories, but we're a lot different, my current self and my 18-year-old self. Different physical bodies. I mean, literally with, a lot of the cells have been replaced or different. It's in a similar form. It's related. But I don't need to get consent because of the differences. I couldn't get consent. And an egg is in the woman's body. She doesn't need the consent of anybody else. She doesn't need the consent from her cells to do things that they naturally do, like digest food or generate a new individual. Now later when it's independent, that's different because things change and conditions change, and eventually something that was part of the, it's beautiful, something that was part of the mother's body becomes an individual. But the decision you're talking about happens when it's still clearly the mother's life. That's what I wanted you to consider. Why should an egg and an ovary, is it's really better off never having a chance to be a human being? Well, I mean, I just don't get the no risk is worth it thing, because if you sever your pain nerves or just have pain medications or just get a pain tolerance, no, a pinprick is not a reason not to live. I could read that, but I've been hearing a lot of this argument, and maybe it would help to read an academic one, but basically I don't see how it possibly make more sense just because it's made more formal. You know, that's a personal decision. You know, whether a broken arm is worth the risk so you can skateboard. That's a personal decision. You can't make that decision objectively for someone else. It's just impossible. Like a technical, requiring self-contradiction type grounds.